Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at a test route from Watnall Driving Test Centre. Now the route itself is fairly recent, however this is an independent drive using Sat Nav. So the pupil is going to be following Sat Nav around this test route with as little support from me as possible. Starting just outside the test centre, you'll see the entrance up ahead on the right. Just remember when you pull off from the roadside, check your blind spot every time. That awareness is absolutely key. On your right, there's the exit from Watnall, so you'll be coming out of the test centre and turning right onto this road. Just be mindful of the parked cars too. Using your mirrors, of course, is really helpful just to show the examiner how aware you are of what's around you. It's not just about looking at the mirrors and going through the motions. Actually process what's in those mirrors. Make sure you know what's going on around you, because if something's coming up behind and you don't register that, it could lead to a problem further along. Up ahead, you'll see the directions on the left-hand side. Now, Hucknall is a right turn. However, the next right turn, you'll notice, has a cul-de-sac or no through road sign on it. So it's not that turn you're looking for if you're going Hucknall, it's the mini roundabout. When you approach the mini roundabout, of course, just like any other roundabout, we look to the right to make sure we've got a clear gap. Any traffic from the right you should give way to. These cars on your left as you come around the roundabout should give way to you, but just be mindful that sometimes people make mistakes, so go in with a bit of caution. This road is a national speed limit road, however, we've got a few bends to get through before you can pick up your speed. You don't want to be doing 60 miles an hour as you come into this bend, firstly because you can't see what's coming the other way, and secondly because you'll end up in the field if you try. The next bend, I always find the road surface here really uncomfortable. It shakes the car a little bit. You might be able to pick that up on the camera. Sometimes this causes pupils to think they're in the wrong gear or they're doing something wrong with the car, but no, that road surface is filled with what feels like rumble strips, and that gives us the cue to just take that bend nice and slowly. Once you get out on the straight stretch here, you can pick up your speed and you can see the pupil getting up to 50 miles an hour fairly quickly. We've got a bridge up ahead where our view is a little bit more restricted. Just be mindful of what's the other side of that bridge. If you do have anything in the way, like a cyclist, for example, don't overtake as you come up this section of road, because you've got cars coming the other way that could be doing 60 miles an hour and you're not going to have the time to react to each other. Coming off the bridge, you can see the bends up ahead, and as we get closer, you'll see the pupil just come off the power and let the car slow naturally towards that bend, letting the car just come up to the bend nice and gently rather than braking. Now, I'm absolutely fine with that because it gives you a smoother change of speed. However, you should always have your brakes ready if you're doing something like this. So if something round the bend does appear, maybe an oncoming vehicle overtaking or a cyclist, then you're ready for it. If you're slowing down, cover your brakes. Now down here, it goes downhill a little bit, does get a little bit tight, so be very mindful of your position. You can see the pupil does a really good job as we come around this next bend. And just after this bend, we'll be dropping into a 30 mile an hour zone. So knowing that that 30 is there helps you plan in advance and slow the car more smoothly. But if you don't know, at least from the bend, you should be traveling slower anyway. And this just shows how important it is as well to look ahead for those speed changes. As we come up to the roundabout, we're going straight first exit. You can see the pupil take the left-hand lane, that's spot on, and keeps it right over to the curb, which again is absolutely perfect. The next roundabout is exactly the same in the way it works. However, the position is a little bit more exaggerated. You've got to steer to the left more to avoid cutting up that right-hand lane. Even if that lane next to you is clear and you've used your mirrors in advance of it, you can still get marked for cutting that lane. So the best practice is get yourself nice and wide like this pupil has and avoid it entirely. Don't cut corners and take chances on your test. Give the examiner nothing to mark you for if you can. as we travel down this road, there's not really a lot that appears to be going on, but there's a lot of driveways and entries on the sides. So just keep your eyes moving, scanning around for anyone approaching your road from the sides, and keep your mirrors covered frequently. Good awareness is going to help you get through your test safely and with a good result. If you're not scanning around, if you're not looking at your mirrors, you're far more likely to get caught out by something than if you're looking around and spotting things nice and early. Notice the lorry coming the other way and the parked car that the lorry is going to try and come around. Any large vehicles, of course, are going to need more space, so make sure you're prepared for them to come out around that vehicle. So a bit of mirror use and easing off that speed is really going to help you. Notice the learner also was out a little bit early, so my pupil had to adjust their position slightly just to create a little more room. And that's exactly how awareness is going to help you prevent problems, because failing to respond to that could result in the mirrors being clipped. And that, of course, whilst it's not our fault, we didn't do anything to prevent it. Good planning here from the pupil as well, just creating the space to let that van cross while the queue ahead was blocking them from moving up. Absolutely brilliant example of good planning and good awareness. And the same again when we've got queues like this. Anything slowing down in front of us, you can see the pupil is easing off and slowing down nice and early, and that is absolutely spot on. You'll notice we've got a sign for a roundabout coming up as well, and we're going to be going straight ahead, which is signposted Hucknall. Now, most of the time it will be a left-hand lane to carry on straight. If the markings tell you different, then that's what you should do. But here you can see the markings confirm that as our normal approach. Left lane for straight, left lane for left, right lane for right. And we'd only use the right lane if the road instructed us to, or if we were turning right. As we come across, you can see again the pupil staying nice and wide in that left-hand lane. And at this point, I'd expect the right mirror to be covered, because that's where you're vulnerable from vehicles potentially coming round you to leave the roundabout. So lots and lots of mirror use, and make sure you cover the spaces where you're vulnerable, rather than just going through the motions of checking your left mirror before you turn left. Up ahead, we're going to be turning right, and you'll see this one has a filter lane for right turns. So what I want to make sure we're doing is getting all four wheels inside our filter lane. You'll see the pupil does come in a little bit early. I don't think that's unreasonable, because we can see that it's clear and the lines are broken. However, we should ideally delay that and get into our filter lane rather than cutting the oncoming one. And being in that filter lane, of course, gives us a safe place to turn without obstructing the cars that want to carry on straight. A nice low speed coming through those gaps. If ever you're not sure about a space, just hold back. I think the pupil made a fair choice there to keep going. There was enough room, and the speed was adapted nicely when they realized that the oncoming cars weren't holding back. As we come down this road as well, I want to see lots and lots of mirror use. Keep an eye on that left side. Make sure you've got plenty of room as you pass those cars. Watch your right side for any potential overtaking traffic, such as motorbikes. And of course, your center mirror is going to give you a heads up of anyone coming up behind you anyway. So lots and lots of mirror use when you're coming down these roads. Notice the bend here. Sat Nav tells us that this is a left turn. However, the road says it's a bend, so you don't need to signal, you don't need to slow down or give way. Just follow the road as it directs. Remember, Sat Nav can give you misinformation. It can give you wrong instructions, and that's an example of one of them. We're going to go through a few tight streets here, and again, these tight streets, it's important to take your time, slow right down, and use your mirrors plenty. You can see how slow we came into this corner here. That was a good entry. Bit of a wobble on the approach, but no harm caused by that. And then we're going to be taking a right turn. And again, it's a case of slowing right down. Make sure you can look up into that road and see what's going on there. The pupil does cut the corner there, so we want to go a little bit further forward before we turn. We don't want to cut corners unless we know it's absolutely safe to do so. But like I said earlier, why give the examiner the opportunity to fault you if it's perfectly avoidable? So the pupil should have turned a little bit later and then curved back around the curb rather than cutting the corner to straight line the junction. That said, in real terms, if the view is clear and you can see that nothing's there, the risk is realistically very, very low. So I don't really see an issue with that in real terms. However, like I say, on your test, don't give the examiner anything. A little corner cut there because we can see the parked cars, but again, I'd like to see the pupil get into their side of the road rather than cutting that corner. And then at the end here, we've got a very, very poor view because of the hedges and walls on either side. Very low speed, lots of observations, and just be prepared to stop on junctions like that. Up ahead, you can see again a number of parked vehicles, and as we get a little closer, you'll see a Tesco van coming in from the other side. The pupil makes a really good decision here and just pulls over and lets them through. If you're not sure about the space that you've got, this is exactly what you should be doing. Pull up, let the hazard move out of your way, and then carry on again. And that's going to keep you nice and safe rather than trying to squeeze your way through and then risking yourself getting faulted for not having good clearance or catching the curbs or causing the other vehicle to have to react. The end of the road here, we're turning left, and whilst the view on the right is a little bit tricky, the left side is the one that we've got to be very careful of. See, we've got parked cars on both sides. Now, most people will just pull straight out into the middle of that gap, and then you've got the oncoming car, and that causes an issue. So what you want to do is stick your nose out, make sure you can see a clear path before you commit to that gap. This next section does catch a few people out. Notice the left only sign stuck in the bushes there and the arrow saying left only as well. You'll also see the no entry sign up ahead with that very interesting looking BMW facing us. So the road bends around to the left, no signals. We don't have to give way, we just carry on round to the left. This part here, the road carries on round to the right. The left side is the entry to a factory, so we don't need to give way again. We just take our time round there, just make sure nobody is going to pull out on you and keep yourself moving round. At the end of this road, you'll notice the two separate lanes for left and right turns and the stop sign on both sides as well. So you want to make sure you're fully in your line all the way up to that stop line and a full complete stop. If you don't stop entirely, then it will be a serious fault on your test for failing to obey the traffic sign. And that includes if you're crawling through at half a mile an hour. The pupil just caught themselves on that one. You notice they were crawling up to it and then they stop right at the last moment. Now, this is a good gap again behind the car as we wait for them to move out of the way. We're not too close, we're not right up on the bumper, but we're also not miles behind them. Notice the pupil holding back here for the oncoming lorry. Now this is absolutely perfect. This is a good example of planning and awareness. And you can see the black car here. They're demonstrating for us the importance of looking into that new road before you pull out. When you're doing left turns, that is a really easy mistake to make. Looking to the right, seeing a gap, pulling out, and then looking up to the left. So if that happened there, that would create a big issue with that lorry. So we've got to make sure we always look up into that new road when we're entering it. Now there's another junction up ahead that can catch people out. If you notice the direction sign on the left here, it says Mansfield and Nottingham. We've got to go around to the right. As we get a little bit closer, you'll see on the traffic light there's no left turn, and you'll see the marking there saying that right only. Look on the far side of the junction, you'll see those bus only signs. So you can't go left, it's no entry. You can't go straight, it's buses only. You've got to go right. The examiners often will say nothing to you there. They'll expect you to see the signs and markings and respond to them. At these traffic lights, the markings are a little bit poor. If you're going straight ahead, you need the right-hand lane. The left lane becomes left only. Now, this can be particularly difficult to see if there's a queue of traffic. So where there's a circumstance like that, the examiners will typically help you by telling you what lane to be in. Notice the red car on the left there sticking his fingers up as well. Now, I just want to point out how quickly people can get annoyed at each other when they don't know the full circumstance. So I'm pretty sure he got upset that we stopped because the car in front of us was turning left and took a little bit of time to do that. He's got upset with us for something that we didn't have a choice in dealing with. We had to wait for that car to turn. So I really, really hope in a sense that this video gets to that guy and that he sees how ridiculous his decision was to swear at a learner driver for doing something that was perfectly reasonable in that situation. Credit to the learner for absolutely not reacting on this occasion. I didn't react either. It could be so easy to escalate that situation and get antagonistic towards each other. It just isn't worth it. Up ahead, we've got a mini roundabout where the direction sign tells us to go straight second exit. However, the layout looks more like a right turn. In terms of signaling on this one, I encourage my pupils to signal like the car in front. However, because the sign says straight, we don't actually need a signal. What my advice would be on your test there is listen to the examiner's instruction. If they say continue straight, don't signal. If they say turn right, then you signal. So listen to what the examiner says to determine what they expect you to do in that particular situation. Notice the pupil easing off the power here, letting the speed come down gently to allow time for the lights to change and the car to move away. If we can do things nice and early like that, it makes the drive really smooth. It shows the examiner you've got good awareness of what's ahead and a good ability to deal with that in the smoothest and most relaxed and controlled manner possible. Any good demonstration of planning and awareness like this is going to go in your favor when the examiner marks any faults. If you show good awareness and good planning, then the severity of any faults becomes lower because you've demonstrated that you are aware of what's around you when you do it. If you're going through situations with very little mirror use, very little forward observations, or poor forward observations and planning, the examiner is going to think that you're just reacting to the environment, which means when you do make a mistake, they are more likely to mark it harshly. So good awareness and good planning is going to make that test so much easier to pass. Up ahead, we've got a roundabout. You can already see the black and white arrows telling you about that roundabout. There is a missing sign here for directions. We are going to be turning right, and that should be signposted Watnall. So you can see the pupil lining up on the right-hand side. Remember to give way to traffic coming round from the right, and then keep that right-hand lane as you enter the roundabout. As we come round, you'll see the pupil switch over to that left-hand side, following the lines outwards rather than cutting across them and end up on the right hand lane. So this is the ideal way to deal with that roundabout. Then of course we're straight into a national speed limit road. Because it's a single carriageway where you're sharing the road with the oncoming cars, that means it's 60 mile an hour. For it to be 70, there has to be a solid, consistent separation between you and the oncoming cars. So 60 mile an hour on a single carriageway, 70 mile an hour where you're separated. Notice the directions ahead for the next roundabout. Now on this one, we've only got left and straight as an option, and that's a hint that those lanes are going to separate into left and straight. Of course, we always look for the arrows or any other information as we get closer to confirm that. This roundabout in particular, right-hand lane for straight, and you'll see the arrows just as you come across the crossing there. Now, if you do find yourself in the left-hand lane and realize that it's left only, make sure you do that left turn. Don't try and change the lane as you enter the roundabout, because that, of course, is going to cause disruption. It's not using the road correctly, and it will be a serious fault on your test. If you're in the wrong lane, just go with it. A wrong turn done safely will not get you a fault, but using the wrong lane to enter a junction will get you a fault, and likely it'll be a serious fault if it's clear, or a dangerous fault if there's somebody approaching nearby. Along this stretch, I'd like to see the pupil going a little faster than this. We kind of hovered around 35 to 40 mile an hour, and then as we approach the roundabout, we've got to slow down. Remember, this is a 60 mile an hour zone. Your examiner is going to want to see good progress if the road is clear and the speed limit is high. So get yourself moving up to 60 if it's safe. Down to 30 as we approach the roundabout, where we'll be turning left. The markings are terrible here. We're going left, so we know we need the left lane. The left lane also allows you to go straight, and the right lane for right, of course, if that's where you're going. As the pupil enters this roundabout, there is a white van on the right-hand side, you might notice. Now, the pupil did use that white van as a shield to enter the roundabout. I don't think that was the greatest idea, because the van was further ahead when we made the turn, and also it wasn't a long vehicle. If it was a lorry, that creates a really good solid barrier for us from any cars coming from the right. But the van, we're relying on a very small barrier, and we're not even in line with it. So don't use small vehicles or short vehicles as a way of sneaking into the roundabout like that. They did get away with this one on this occasion, as nothing else was coming, but just be really careful what vehicles you use to shield you on roundabouts. The road ahead brings us back towards those two roundabouts we came across near the start of this test route, and straight back into Watnall down that 60 mile an hour road. Just like we said earlier about this road, I want to see good mirror use and good awareness. We've got loads of entries and driveways on both sides of the road, so lots of mirror use and scanning is going to keep you aware of what's around you, and it's going to keep the examiner content that you're showing good awareness, particularly when you've got to move around vehicles like this. Lots and lots of mirror use. Check that right side before you move out, check your left side as you're passing by, and keep it on that center mirror frequently as well. Let your eyes constantly be moving around while you're going down roads like this. As we approach those two roundabouts, we've got a similar situation to the one that I mentioned earlier, where you've got left and straight but no right turn. Now that again is that indication that the left lane is going to be left only and the right lane is going to be straight ahead. Notice the cars in front leaning over to the right, the white markings on the left there, and then those arrows. Even though they're very faded, there's enough there for you to see, so the examiners will expect you to see that and respond accordingly. I have done a video previously where the pupil unfortunately failed to respond to those markings, and I had to intervene because there was a car overtaking us as we went to enter the roundabout. Now that, of course, would go down as a dangerous fault. In the event that you find yourself in the left-hand lane, just turn left, and that will be the safest option. All the examiners will do is reroute you, turn you around, and bring you back to that junction. So make sure you're following the road appropriately. Don't change lane as you join the roundabout, and certainly don't change lane if there's somebody there. Coming off the roundabout, we're entering that 60-mile-an-hour road again. You'll see the speed change just up ahead. Like I said earlier, if it's safe to do so, the examiners want to see you make good progress up to that speed limit. We do have a few bends, of course, which are going to keep your speed down, and that's absolutely fine. And we've got vehicles in front, so of course we can't just bomb it up to 60 if they're only doing 40. It's not going to end well. But what we do want is, as soon as we get onto that straight, clear road where the visibility is good, if we've got the space to do it, we want to get that speed up. And my advice would be to aim for at least 50 mile an hour on a 60 road and at least 60 on a 70 road. And that's going to keep you close enough to the speed limit for the examiners to be happy that you're making good progress. Remember, they're judging you as a learner, not an experienced driver. So don't feel you've got to push yourself right the way up to that limit if it doesn't quite feel safe. Notice the warnings here for cues likely, junction on the right. Those are warning you that as you come off this bridge, there may be vehicles queuing up to turn right. So if there's someone turning right, we'll expect cars to be queuing up behind them, which of course means we run out of room very quickly. So any warning signs are telling you, slow down, there's potentially a problem up ahead. And of course, examiners want to see you respond to those signs appropriately. So whenever you see a warning sign, get on those mirrors, get off that gas, and that's going to help you demonstrate good awareness and planning to the examiner. Remember those bends from the other end of this road? We're just coming up to those now, and of course we've got a warning sign, we've got a slow warning. We want to bring that speed down. Notice how the pupil is still at 40. That's a little bit quick for this bend. I would advise you to get it 30 and under for this bend. That allows you to prepare for the next one. You've got a give way sign telling you what's after the bend. Notice the little wobble of steering there because the pupil are coming a bit too fast. There's Anderson going the other way. And then round this bend, keeping the speed again a little bit lower because you're leaning in a little bit tighter on that left bend. At the end of the road here, we've got a mini roundabout where we'll be going left. And just like any other roundabout, we want to be sure to give way to any vehicles coming from the right-hand side. Now you can see the other vehicles waiting for their opportunity to go, so we've just got to hold our ground until we get up to that giveaway line and can see for ourselves what's going on. Don't forget to look to the left as well, so you know exactly what you're going into. Don't just stare at the right-hand side and then look up as you turn, because remember that truck from earlier on where the black car came out? If they didn't look up, they'd have caused themselves a really big problem. Now that brings us up to the end of this test route. You're going to see Watnall Test Centre entrance on the left side in a moment. As we bring this video to an end, I just want to thank you again for watching this. I really do hope that these videos are helping you prepare for your own driving test. Remember, independent driving will be assessed on your driving test, whether it's following road signs or sat nav. So these are things you want to practice and feel confident with, and that you don't need the support of your instructor doing following sat nav and road signs around different roads like this. Thank you again for watching. I hope it's been useful. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment if you have found it useful, and I'll keep these coming. Thank you for watching. God bless.